Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira Cohen, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Okay, hello everyone. I am so glad to be here today with Alina Calinescu. So she's from Romania originally. She lives in Toronto now. She's a certified IAYT yoga therapist. She's trauma informed, pain care aware, and IRS certified. She's also got pelvic floor. So she sent me an email, and in the email there was pretty much everything I needed to ask her the questions, because she's such a pitta person like me. So I was very happy because I was pretty tired today. So thank you for being here, Alina. I'm really very grateful.
My pleasure to be here. One correction, I live between Toronto and Detroit. In a place called London, Ontario, that has all kind of names for streets and river and everything like the London in UK.
Oh,
but
wow.
In Canada. So, that's the only correction. And other than that, I am your pitta person that I like to have a structure, and I need to work with a structure. That doesn't mean that I'm not having the creativity in it, but I like
within the structure you have creativity.
Absolutely, and a lot of fun with the creativity.
Yeah, I agree. And your pitta is showing by your correction.
I just don't want my students to think that I moved to Toronto and then they can't find me any longer. I was like, say what? You didn't tell us that you moved to Toronto. When did that happen?
Okay, so welcome. And yes, please tell us your yoga story. How did you get to yoga, and when did it become yoga therapy?
Well, thank you. I have started I've never been to the gym in my entire life until in my 40s when one of the people that I was working with in my business school was often late coming from the gym and often not doing his work for the group work project. At that time, in a different life, I was an engineer in a business school. And I really started to be curious about the whole gym situation. It's like, okay, so you're going to have to take me to the gym to see what's going on. So here I go. I'm in my 40s, and I'm going to the gym first time. And he's teaching me how to work out and pushing me into classes and like, go and try this out, go and try that out. And I'm fascinating because instantly I start feeling better. Now, on the background, I had back pain most of my life. After I had a child, I got stuck in the recovery, stuck 90 degrees. And there was not much postpartum care in the communist Romania. And I was just like, okay, so start walking. It's like, okay, so how do I walk when I'm stuck at my 90-degree kind of bend like a old person, okay? So it was not so easy for a few years, and I got all kind of unconventional treatments. There's even no physiotherapy, not much going on. And going to the gym, I started to feel better, but better not necessarily physically, better mentally and emotionally, and that started to spill into my physical well-being, which didn't happen until I started to go to figure out what type of classes do I really want to do. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I think it's in the Netherlands too, the body balance, body flow classes at the gym that have yoga, Pilates, and Tai Chi. And those started to feel like so good in my body that those were the only classes that I took for a while. And pretty much every day until at some point one of the people I was taking the class from saying like, you should be getting trained in this and teach this because you're here every day. So I did. And then I was like, what do I know about yoga? That there's some yoga in it and there's some Pilates in it. And like a good pitta, like a good curious pitta, I wanted to know more about this. And I wanted to know more about that. And I wanted to know more about that. And I started to take like, okay, no, I want to take a yoga class to see like how much yoga is in this. Okay. Then I want to take a Pilates class to figure out how much Pilates is in this.
Yeah.
And I want to take a Tai Chi class. It's like, okay, now I think I get it better. But I want to know more, right? So I started with a short yoga course. And I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. I want to know more about yoga. A short yoga course, like a weekend course.
And this was all in Romania?
No. This was in Canada.
I was going to say, wow, they had this in Romania.
No, this was in Canada. We immigrated to Canada in 1999. It was in Canada. So anyway, I took that little course, and then I was like, I want to take a longer course, a longer yoga course. At the same time, I was working as an engineer and taking the business school. And my engineering career came to a halt in 2008. The recession
because of the crisis.
Yeah, the recession was hitting, and I realized that there was something about my job that had a cycle of 2 years and a half, and then I'd have to find another job and another job in engineering or manufacturing. And this was the first time when I purposely decided not to look for a job for a little bit. And I was like, let's see what happens if I am going on this path.
Wow.
A lot of people that that when you go on this path, some friends are looking at you like a little bit, okay, so you're going through your midlife crisis. There's something going on with you. What is going on with you, right? Or I had even people telling me, I think I liked you better before you started to run around with your yoga people.
Wow.
So anyway, the pitta, we don't care much about that. We're still. So I started to look at first I had a mentor, because back in that day that we were taking a yoga course and that age, that 2010, you needed a year of solid practice with a mentor to give you a letter that you're ready mentally, physically, emotionally for the yoga course that you're prepared. And that was part of the admission. And there were not as many yoga schools. And now when there was no fast track to this, like you had to go and physically be there, like long days from 6:30, I think it was 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. kind of thing, long days.
Wow, yes.
And it was interesting because I was unemployed and I could not afford it, because you hear a lot of people, oh, I can't afford it. And my mentor told me, set an intention, sign up for it, and the money will come. And in my business educated engineer mind, I was like,
there's no way.
What are you talking about? But he was like, okay, so which one did you narrow it down? Like a good pitta, I had like 80 something schools on my spreadsheet.
80?
Yeah. And I started to narrow it down, like to styles, to teachers, to everything. I narrowed it down to 3 schools. Then I wanted to hear the voice of the main teacher for 2 schools, because I'm a voice person.
Yeah.
And if I'm not connecting, I'm gonna disconnect, and I'm like,
and then you don't learn anything.
Yeah. So the thing is, we decided what school am I gonna go to, and there was a little bit even more more fun stuff, a little bit of muscle testing and a whole bunch of stuff there. What are we doing? And then my mentor passed away before I
started.
Yes.
Oh no.
He was in a car accident, and he died immediately after the car accident.
Oh, how terrible.
And I was like, now what? I'm on this journey on my own. Okay. So I ended up signing up for the course that we decided together, and I have talked to the school. I was like, okay, here's the deal. I do not have all the funding. Are there any discounts that I can trade some services? Is there any work exchange program? And I did sign up to do the work exchange program.
Excellent. Lucky that was there. I had the same kind of experience. I was in Berlin, and I'd always practiced yoga by myself for 10 years. And I never had a teacher, but in Berlin, someone said, oh, come to a class, it's free. So I came to the class for free. And because I was very diligent, this teacher really liked me, Manuela Janssen de Heide. And she said, you can come anytime for free. And this went on for about 2 years. And then, yeah, she became my mentor and my teacher. And she had a clinic. And it was thanks to her that I went much deeper than I would have. You know, there's these opportunities. So I think this is important for people to realize that just because it's free doesn't mean it's no good. There can be amazing teachers who really, from the bottom of their hearts, the depths of themselves, want to offer things. And that's also what my business model was in the beginning. You know, I will attract the right people. It will keep going. But real estate has become so ridiculous. There's no way we can sustain this at this time.
I had a portion of my tuition covered through the work exchange program.
Sorry to cut your story.
No, and for the rest of it, it was exactly what my mentor told me. An opportunity came to me to teach to children. And they actually paid me $25 more than I needed for the course for my balance. So it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And I took my 200-hour course in the school in an intensive program. So it was 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week, and the 7th day would be free to rest. And every 6 days you would have an exam. So we had 3 exams, and the passing grade was 8%. Yes, there were people that did not pass, and there were people that had not finished the program while I was there. I did end up going one day early and cleaned up the studio and cleaned the dorms and did my work exchange program. Then I stayed one day late to clean up and leave the place even cleaner than it was before.
And being a good pitta.
Yeah, and I came back and I was teaching classes. And what did I do in between? I took a yin yoga course because I really wanted to know a little bit more about yin yoga. My mentor was the person that introduced yin yoga where we used to teach, and he passed away. And I was asked if I want to take over those. Like, that would be so interesting for me to teach something that I've never took from him, and I've never studied. So I read a book. It's like, I can't. I'm a pitta. I can't read a book and go and teach, because I'm gonna feel like a fraud. And I said, I can if I can teach by reading for a couple of months before I'm taking the course, and I take the course and I'll come back and I can teach after I took a course, because I didn't want to lose the opportunity.
No, of course not.
Right. So I took the yin yoga course, And then I realized that there's so much more in therapeutics that I want to learn about this, that I know pretty much nothing about nothing. 200-hour, I like to say it's almost like a high school education, high school diploma.
Not even, it's like scratching the surface of this huge ocean. Yeah.
So I did go back to the same school for the yoga therapy program at
Which
that
school was
time.
that?
So this is a school in Ontario. It's no
Yes.
longer on the IIYT. And
Oh,
back when I took the course in 2013, there was the grandfathering of the
yes.
programs in. But I
Yes.
took that as an opportunity to bring my education up to those hours.
Yeah,
However, I decide with what I decide that I'm interested in.
of course.
So what I took from that to heart was the pain care aware course,
Mm.
because as a person that I lived with pain, like I am a pitta, and I would not admit that that was chronic pain, but after the
After you healed, you can admit
study,
it.
I
Yeah.
can admit that it was chronic pain. It was just
Mm.
like gritting my teeth and going through the day with pain in my back that was always part of my day, was never going away. But when I took that program, it was something was actually
Shifting.
starting to shift and click like within the 10 minutes of the practice, that
Wow.
the switch would be flipped, that I have changed my relationship with pain to the point that the pain was no longer present, and that was
Wow.
not happening unless I was popping a pill, because that's another pet peeve that I have right now. Everybody pops a pill for something, and then they pop a pill for the pill, and then they pop a pill for the pill for
Yeah.
the pill,
My
and all of a
grandmother,
sudden, yeah.
just before she died, like the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, maybe even, she was on, I think, about 20 pills a day, and each year there was a few more added on. Um, I just wanted to ask something. What was it? What aspects of that, what do you call it? Pain care aware. Is it the awareness? Is it a gentle movement? What is it? Is it?
Pain Care Aware is a program that right now I'm a trainer for,
Yes.
and I decided to do that because of how it worked for me. So
Mm-hmm.
it is about the language, and it is
Mm.
about the language and about the ability to adapt that language to pretty much any yoga style that you are teaching. And right now, even Pilates instructors are getting that training.
Oh,
And
good.
I get to see, and probably personal trainers and everyone who's teaching movement
Mm-hmm.
could benefit from uh, the
Different use of
yes, the
language.
different
Yeah.
use of the language. And I call it, this is not coming from the course, this is my take on it. This is like for me, is like the pain care loop, because it's kind of, I'm going into the swadhyaya, into the self-study. Then
Mm-hmm.
I have the language for the keen discernment to arise,
Mm-hmm.
such as, am I going to regret this tomorrow? Is this going to benefit me tomorrow? Because sometimes in between episodes of pain, we are our own worst enemy because we're overdoing it.
Yeah,
So
or
it's
it's
how,
underdoing it also. I think
yes, yes.
it's a fine line between the two. And I think, I don't know, I use this kind of to look at my pain. Is it worse in the morning or the evening, to
Hmm.
also help me understand, was it too much movement or not enough?
So for me, that was an eye opener, that, and a body opener, body awareness, because
Mm,
I guess that when we're in pain, sometimes we don't want to be in pain and we disassociate,
mm-hmm,
because we don't want to inhabit there. It's not comfortable to inhabit there. So learning
mm,
how to address what was going on in my body gave me a little bit of an insight on that. So that was one of the pivotal moments in my yoga therapy journey. The
mm-hmm,
second pivotal moment, I'm going to say, it was meeting Judith Hanson Lasater, and
mm,
it came to me that I need to take a restorative yoga course. Honestly, I think that pretty much every yoga therapist needs to know about restorative yoga, about yoga nidra, and how to use this powerful technique. Not from a book. Yoga
from a
is
teacher.
really not reading a script that you find on the internet that you can download 300
videos.
Yeah, it's not that. It's so much more than that.
Yeah,
so
just having a teacher come around the room and touching each body and helping you feel how, if you put the bolster there or a block there or a blanket here, it just makes such a huge difference.
So meeting Judith was really great. I took the restorative yoga. At that time, I was unsure if I wanted to do the entire certification and process, and I decided quickly that I'm going to do that. I submitted the old school, the project, through mailing it to her home. She's done the
Which year was this?
pen.
Which year was that?
I'm sorry?
What year was that?
So that was 2014 that I did the project and everything else. And then she's doing the red pen corrections on it and showing you what else could you have done there. And on the cover of the project was, okay, excellent job. Come assist me sometimes. And if you want to come to Montreal or to any place that is closer to you, come and assist me. And I was so beside myself with excitement, and I was like, oh wow. I'm going to do that. So I started assisted Judith for 1 or 2 times a year, and that's filling my cup and to take all her courses. And that for me became the pivotal moment. I was like, yes. So now I can go deeper into my healing process. She looked at me first time. I was like, my dear, you really have to work on your kidney chi. And I'm looking at her, it's like, what? And I have to
your
admit
adrenals.
Yeah, in between my wide awake and fast asleep, there was nothing much. And there was nothing much to explore. Before that, I took my first yoga nidra course. And when I took the first yoga nidra course, like, well, that was a waste of money to fall asleep on every single session until I understood what my, the borrowing part of the bank of sleep was overdue for me to start paying my debt after working shifts most of my life. It was a reprogramming part of my circadian rhythms was happening through yoga nidra. And then my second pivotal moment, I'm going to say, was the deciding to go for the full certification for iRest yoga nidra. And
very good, yeah.
Yeah, so that was
very effective.
That took me a lot deeper into the self-inquiry and into the healing some parts of my soul that were still bleeding. And I guess that some you really need to do that if you want to be holding space for other people to heal those parts.
You can only take people as far as you've been. And hopefully you're a few steps ahead of them when you take them there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I just realized that most of my I like to call my career previous to meeting Judith and after Judith kind of thing, because everything has changed, even things that I wasn't aware of how I was doing alignment-wise. So I asked her, one of my first questions was like, can you talk to me about sacroiliac joint and sacroiliac joint care? It's like, my dear, that's a whole different course that I teach. No, I teach a course, stop talking your tailbone. And I was like, okay, you got my attention. And then it's like, I bet you're twisting with the sitting bones pinned on the floor. I was like, did you think I know how I was twisting? I had to sit down and just figure out how I was twisting. So I guess that we put so much so much trust in our teachers, right?
That's so important. Yes. Well, if you don't trust your teacher, you can't learn from your teacher. And I think that's the biggest problem with having these very quick yoga teacher trainings and everything else. Is all a business model now. It's not about connection. It's not about deep healing and trust and bonding and actual learning, which takes years. and
It was
integrity.
unfortunate that I was taught in my previous courses some tucking of the tailbone and some
Yeah, but
pelvic.
you learn from the wrong
Yes,
things too. You
yeah,
can,
absolutely.
I
But then when
think,
I met Judith, things started to
fall
shift
into
and
place.
change. Every
Yeah.
time when I'm assisting her, it's like, can you talk a little bit more about twisting to these people? Because that changed my life and that changed my entire approach to how am I moving and and what needs to move and what needs to
And
be.
why? And why
Yeah.
would you move a certain thing? I've also done the experiential anatomy with Judith, and it was amazing. And the teacher that I was talking about before, my mentor in the beginning, Manuela Janssen de Hader, so she had a clinic with 3 rooms, and we did these therapy sessions with people. And there was a lot of experimentation because she was also a masseur, she was also an Ayurvedic doctor and an acupuncturist. So she really knew the body very well. And she incorporated things from football and ballet and dance and everything. And she used a lot of this restorative yoga and deep relaxation. So for me, I knew already very early on how important Shavasana is, and using props and being playful and inquiry in the body, inquiry with your client or your student, always asking questions. Like Judith says, you come to the mat asking, so what do I need? Not with an idea already set. Always be open to what. And as you practice also, there might be changes needed as you discover what's going on all the different layers of the self.
Yeah, so I was blown away from some of my takeaways from her courses and her um, mentorship, because I want to say assisting her is a mentorship program because you get to follow her along and learn how to see and learn how to prop better and how to support better, not only physically but mentally and emotionally. So that was the time of growth. Plus, she is an expert in nonviolent communication,
Yes.
and that part was also very important to me. And then my third pivotal moment, I'm going to say it was taking the pelvic floor education, because I believe that it is not necessarily part of a lot of courses and a lot of education. And when I took that education, that became a little bit the piece of the puzzle that was missing in what I was offering. So now this was a lot of travel involved and a lot of networking and a lot of and I enjoy that part. But it came to the point to like, now what, I need to put it together. So I started with a 200-hour yoga teacher training that I put together with a couple of friends in 2015, and then additional courses and education started to emerge. And a lot of the students that were through the 200 hours, they were interested in more education and asking me, are you going to put this together in a bigger program? So I said, I'm going to put a bigger program together with everything that I love in it. And right now, I was hoping that I'm gonna have this like huge awakening moment when I'm gonna have 10,000 hours of teaching, and like it came and went. I was like, okay, where's my awakening moment? Where's like the huge like?
It's
like
little steps. There's not
used,
one big hit.
I know, but a lot of people are saying you're not an expert until you reach 10,000 hours. Like, I'm still not an expert, and I reached 10,000 hours of teaching a couple of years ago. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I was kind of like the jack of all trades and running around and teaching many classes a week that I don't even know how I used to do it.
Yeah.
And I took a whole week off. And for a pitta, that is a hard thing to take a whole week off. And now what if I can't do what I do? So I had a student that was coming back from Florida, and she sent me a message like, I'm gonna go crazy being locked up. Can you record a video and send me a video to do some yoga while I'm locked up in quarantine? And I said like, wow, how many times can you practice the same video before being bored? And actually, how much can I even charge for a video? And I'm starting to take all the courses that were out there. Everybody was showing people how to do things online and stop having the excuses and find a reason why. It's not going to be perfect, and you're not going to have the perfect equipment, but nobody's going to expect perfect. Everybody's going to expect to move and to stay healthy and to do something. And I was like, okay, so I have an opportunity right now to design a program that I can be very, very passionate about. What would I want to teach? What made a difference in my life? And I can pass on to others in a therapeutic manner. So the first one that came to me is like, okay, so what would I do on a Monday? It's like on a Monday, I would want to move gently and to find my center of gravity and to wake up my body. So pelvic floor yoga seemed like a great fit for Monday. I was like, okay, so now we're ramping up Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, what do we do Tuesday? We all know in yoga therapy that the number one reason that people go to see their general practitioner or a physiotherapist is usually back pain. And I was like, okay, so what would I want to do? Neck, shoulders, back line, all the way to the glutes, because I consider the glutes part of the back line.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I was like, I'm going to do pelvic floor, then I'm going to do neck, shoulders, and back care class. Then what? Like, what is the age group here? So they probably need to work on stronger bones, and let's just incorporate small weights. And that actually came to me from somebody in my class that is not even in that age group, but she is the ultimate double jointed person that I've ever seen. I was like, okay, bones hugging your muscles hugging your bones, and like they are. It's like, okay,
but what's your joint doing?
Like, it doesn't really look like they are. So I'm putting weights in her hands. I was like, okay, take the small weights overhead, and all of a sudden I was like,
she can't.
Oh, I was like, oh wow, I'm onto something here. So let's just hang on to this concept and incorporate it.
I just wanted to say, because I did the same about 3-4 years ago. I started using weights because I'm pretty flexible and I'm pretty strong, but I started to notice as I went into perimenopause and the hormones are changing that the muscles become a lot looser and the ligaments become a lot looser. And it's really important to start integrating weights and doing more strength building as you age, even in your 40s, 50s. You don't even have to be old. And especially if you do a lot of yoga, because it can be overstretching.
So it was a pandemic, and people are like, what do you have in your pantry? Get a couple of soup cans. Start with the soup cans, with the cartons of soup or milk or whatever you have, or bottles of water, whatever you have. Start with whatever you have. And then the yoga for better bones, the yoga with weights was born for Wednesday, the peak day, like peak class. Then I'm very passionate about moving the joints. The Joint Fraying series is one of my favorite things in the world. And then I took a course on myofascial release, and I'm combining the myofascial release with Joint Fraying series.
Yes.
and with some sprinkles of balancing, because what else is going on in an aging body? You're losing your balancing, right?
Yes. Can we just, for people who don't know, because this is not just yoga teachers listening, hopefully, can you talk about myofascial release and freeing the joint series, because some people don't know what that is.
Okay, so joint freeing series, to my knowledge, was introduced by Mukunda Stiles in North America.
It's
And
older than that, but yeah.
yes,
It's from
but he was the
Shivananda.
first. He was the first one to
Bring it
make
to
it
the
a
West.
little bit, bring it to the general public in North America to move the
Okay.
joint. So moving the joints, all the joints have a range of motion that we call, I'm going to do the air quote, normal range, but nobody really has a normal range. And the normal is it's a big spectrum. So moving the joints in all the directions that the universe, God, Mother Nature, Mom and Dad intended us to move,
To
whatever
have.
you believe in. So you
Yes.
need to move your joints to keep them functional, lubricated some of them, and all of them functional.
And to be able to do all the things in the day and age well.
So moving the joints is one of the things that I do first when I work one-on-one, look at people moving the joints and figuring out what is the range of motion, and is actually what actually do you need range of motion wise to lead a productive, healthy, functional life, because that's what I'm calling functional. Because for somebody that is a gymnast,
What's
function in
functional?
that world is different. For
Yeah.
me, that I'm in my 50s and I'm a yoga teacher trainer, and yoga therapist. Functional means different. I don't really need the range of motion of a gymnast, because that would probably be not beneficial, and to the point that would be harmful for me
For
to have
you.
that range of
Yes.
motion. So working with people with a range of motion, and then the myofascial release is, as we mature, we're starting to have a little bit less glide and slide of the tissues against each other, and they start becoming a little bit more shrink wrapped, for a lack of better word. So we become shrink wrapped, and we dry out and we become shrink wrapped if we're not moving them.
Enough.
So
Yes.
trying to hydrate the tissues
By movement.
by movement, and using a small rubber ball, tennis ball, whatever kind of ball that you can start moving the tissues in the body. So what it started to look like, a lot of play. And at the end of that class, I actually do the eye movements to the yoga for the eyes. And then we do a little bit of tapping on the face and on the neck and on the chest and on the shoulders. And that combination seemed to take off like really, really fast.
Is that the emotional release tapping that you're doing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's a little bit of it. My mentor used to be trained in that and work with me, but I had a lot of things to work with that, because I had a little bit of claustrophobia and all kind of other things that we worked on. So what we're working on is mostly like the palming. I'm right now in my third yoga nidra certification with the Emirate Institute. What do I like about that is because we're not laying down right away. We're doing a little bit of
softening
movement, and we are catering to the two of the koshas, at the layers that we are enveloped in as human blissful bodies. So we're working on, one of the things is, I just want to say that this is a little bit where the progressive muscle relaxation technique meets the the tapping, the EFT technique, the emotional freedom technique, right? And one of the things that then I was like, oh, I was doing this before I was taking this yoga course. Sometimes you do these things instinctively, and you take a course like, yes, thank you so much
now you explained what I was doing.
Explain this to me. So actually, we're doing both the tense and release, the progressive muscle relaxation technique, and the Yoga Nidra presentation, and we also work with the pranayama. So I think that is what got me like, ooh, I really like this.
Juicy.
Plus we use the support from restorative yoga to
as well. Oh, it's very full.
To create a different experience, like an energy body experience. So that became my Thursday class, and Friday I'm doing something that I call functional core integration, that combines all the classes from the week, but without adding the weights, using the body weight, actually, and without doing the myofascial release. But we're combining everything that we've done Monday and Tuesday with the strength that we build on Wednesday, and Thursday is the recovery day after the weights day, because you really need a break. And then you do the functional core integration, in which I'm progressively adding more. So we start with gentle movement and somatics, and then we start with some side planks, with some clamshells, with all kind of movements that where I'm actually increasing the time, increasing the repetition. So we're getting into stronger bodies.
Yes.
And
God, that sounds like my class. Sounds like I teach. It's nice to hear someone saying that they teach that way. Because sometimes I'm like, am I making people work too hard? Am I giving them too much?
So here's the deal. I started this the week after the first week of lockdown. And I am now I finished tomorrow week 111 with this format. And these people are not making a commitment to like going to a gym or a studio that they buy a membership that is like a year membership, and now they have to come to make their money worth of the membership. They are on week to week, and they decide to come back. So they decided to come back when we celebrated week 100. I needed to know why are they coming back.
That's what the survey was.
Okay, I really need to know your ages, if you don't mind. I did have the intake forms, but those are things that are confidential. I was like, this is not confidential. I'm asking this for statistical purposes because I want to know what's in it for you. What do you perceive as your benefit, and what are others observing in you that make you want to come back and continue to have this commitment to yourself?
Good questions.
So I asked them for a question. I gave them a free week. I was like, this is free, a celebration, but I would appreciate if you would be willing to answer 4 questions for me. So in the beginning, even before that, I had people asking me to stay. This is an online offering to stay. And it grew from this wonderful lady, Laura, that asked me if I can make a video for her.
Just one video.
Okay, so, and at the same time, I needed to do clinical classes for my 200-hour students and 300-hour students. I was like, okay, I can also invite them, make this part of their education for them to see, how do I do this? How do I run these classes? And to learn cues, to learn about alignment, about cues, about the structure of the class, the sequencing of a therapeutic class, right?
Yeah. Can I ask something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you did this as a recording, or you did these classes again and again live, I imagine?
Good question. They are live. Every day they are live, but every day I'm pressing the record button because that started to be a little bit of a problem because people were not able now that
to be present.
things were starting to open up. They had appointments, they had all kind of things going on, and I decided to just upgrade my Zoom account so I can hold on to some of these recordings for them to see. So what is happening, some of them come online, and some of them are working with on demand with the recordings that they are landing daily in their inbox. They have all the way until Sunday midnight to complete the week of classes. So say you're able to be in person Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday you're not, then you can catch up with Wednesday. I usually recommend to keep them in sequence, but it's not a big deal if you're not.
That's another thing I wanted to ask, because basically I have a lot of questions. You've pretty much, as a pitta person who wants to be perfect, you've said and answered every question that I had pretty much. The only thing I was wondering about was your sequence. I imagine that the pelvic health care is the basis of the spine, and then you do the back care. Is that so?
Yes. So that's my I recommend that the sequence is maintained when they practice, but say if they want to practice twice the myofascial release class, great. If they want to practice only once, that's good too. If they want to send me, it's like, okay, so it's weekend and I want to practice again. Can I practice again this in this class? Then I say, yeah, can you practice this one first and this one second? Because by now they know that the sequencing of these classes for me is important, because that gives them, like, it's a ramping up, then it's a break, then it's almost like a cycling class that you go through the hills. And by the weekend, if you finish, then you take the weekend off, and that's your full recovery weekend. Because sometimes we're so ambitious and we want to have something every day, and we do not give our body a break to recover. So this week, as I mentioned, we are in week 111. We're finishing the week 111. And some of them, these people are, their age range is 60 to 74.
Wow.
With only one person that is in their 40s. And how did this grew? I call it the online yoga tribe. This is now has 20 people in it, and all of them are coming to class, a minimum of 2 or 3 live classes, and the rest of them they are practicing with recordings. And they brought their cousin from there and the sister from there, or somebody brought their daughter, because that's why we have a 40-something-year-old in this tribe.
Class.
But when I started, the age group was not well defined, because there was the students from 200-hour, 300-hour course that were their mentoring classes, clinical classes that they would see me doing. And I even had one of my advanced yoga teacher training students brought her daughter, and her daughter was pregnant. So there were even pregnancy options included in this. And then the pregnant daughter had a baby, and then she took the 200-hour yoga teacher training. So we're becoming like a big community and big family.
That's beautiful. That's really lovely. It
started to shape up right now as yoga for functional aging. But hey, my most excited ever student about functional aging was 25. So it's like, I'm so happy that I'm learning about this stuff now, so I don't have to deal with overusing and aches and pains that I heard when you were talking, I think, with Leslie Kaminoff in your podcast, that many of the senior teachers are going through some hip replacements and knee replacements and all kind of aches and pains that I like to say we're not pointing fingers and vilifying anything, but now that we know better, we can do better. And how do we incorporate the better? And how do we understand that if we are very ambitious, because that's what I ask people to do, to take ambition out of their practice.
Yeah, I think you can be ambitious, but then also have the understanding and the knowledge of the body, understand the joints, understand the different tissues, like muscles can stretch, but ligaments can't. This kind of thing is really important. And I think as a yoga teacher, you can do a lot of harm if you don't explain these kinds of things to your students. I think we should know this. And I think like 25 hours in a yoga teacher training is nothing. It's
Mm.
it's so minimal. I had trained for years with my teacher and then did a 200-hour teacher training. And I was scared to teach because you know how much can go wrong. The more you understand about the body, the more you realize from, okay, especially older bodies or people who are very flexible or very stiff. Yeah.
So very, very fast, some of the students coming to classes, they realize, like I had somebody that sent me a note back in the day. It's like, I've been meaning to ask you what are your plans when everything reopens. I've mentioned to you before my osteoarthritis in my hip. Last year, the pain was getting so bad, I finally said to my doctor to book me in a consult with a rapid access clinic. It took 10 months for the doctor to say, let's give you cortisone shots. And I said, no thanks. I will come back next year if it's worth.
Yeah,
And she's
exactly.
saying now, she's getting to the good juicy part. I'm doing more yoga now than when I used to do before in person. So that means every day instead of once or twice a week. It's been over a year, but in the last few months, I noticed the pain is so much better.
Excellent. How
There is
beautiful.
nothing else I'm doing differently, so it must be the yoga.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I hear
Right.
this from so many people.
Yeah, so she said to me, I really think many people would like to continue the online, even if it's just on demand, because your schedule will be getting busy. I can't seem to fit in more than one or two yoga maximum in person, but for some reason, when I'm doing it online on my own schedule, with the structure of the video, that keeps me going.
Mm.
So please consider continuing because things were opening up. And I was like, I'm going to stay with you for as long as you want me to stay with you. And now
Oh,
they hold me accountable to that because
yeah.
I'm 57 right now, and I was talking earlier retirement around 60. And it's like, you promised us that you won't retire on us. It's like, as long as you want me to stay with you, I will not retire because maturity in this profession
Is a
is
gift.
an asset.
Yes.
A lot of people want to be coming in and making a big splash, and I'm hearing questions like, "Oh, how do you get to put together yoga teacher training?" It's like, okay, so wait a minute. It's like, how much experience do you
Do you
have? I
have?
still have a pet peeve that for instance, in US and North America, anybody that has 1,500 hours of teaching experience can have a yoga teacher training. But
Serious?
yes,
Oh gosh.
seriously. So when I had 1,500 hour experience, I was a baby.
Yeah.
I was a baby. I wish that it would be more like 5 to 10,000 hours experience because
Ah, yeah.
that would give you some sort of, okay, I've been there, I've done that. And
You've
what did
seen the
you do?
bodies and you've contemplated a lot, you've made a lot of mistakes, and then you can actually teach.
Mm.
It's all business, it's all money.
So,
It's in a hurry.
one of the eye openers were for me and the human dissection lab that Leslie was bringing up, Gil Hadley, that
Mm-hmm.
I have done a dissection lab with, and I believe that was 2018. And we had an art table who were very, very, very respectful, and as humans lived a really amazing life, and they donated their body to science because they wanted us to learn more.
Mm.
So we had these humans all in their 90s on our tables, and I got to
Wow.
see knee joints in three different people. And how did
Wow.
they look? That could have been very, very easily a knee joint course. Uh, one table, there was this gentleman that looked very muscular, and we could not tell that he was in his 90s based on looking at his joints, that his joints looked like they were very, very young looking, so very functional, okay?
Wow.
On another table was a person with 2 knee replacements, so we got to see how the knee replacements
affected the joints around and the muscles around.
Yes, and it's interesting that when you see knee replacements, even the synovial fluid takes the grayish color from
the metal.
From the metal. And on the third table was somebody that we assumed that this person was bound to a wheelchair, but I got to see how arthritis looks like. And it looked like her knee joints were only pebbles and sand. There was no more cartilage. So looking at those people that were all the same age,
with very different conditions.
There were different conditions. So that kind of fueled me, like, what can we do to work on the joints in a way that it's not overusing? Because sometimes, with all due respect and love that I have for fitness, sometimes at some point in our life, like, high impact is no longer serving us. And we need to move into low or medium impact classes if we are actually looking for fitness. And one of the people that I had in my classes, she was a candidate for double knee replacement surgery a few years back, and her surgeon pushed the surgery every year, and wanted to know what was she doing differently, because she should have been, according to him, she should have been in excruciating pain, no more cartilage in her knees. But because she built strength and there was space in her joints, she wasn't feeling the pain of the arthritis. So that was another eye-opener for me. Okay, so something must be working for this result, sustainable results year after year, for your surgery to be postponed.
Yes.
No doubt in my mind that eventually she will need the surgery. But this takes me to another topic that is so important nowadays, the pre-op and the post-op rehabilitation, that most of the healthcare system that in most countries is overworked and overburdened.
I think all countries.
And the first thing that if you go with a pain and ache to a doctor, you get a pill. And then with that pill, maybe the pain is, you put a Band-Aid on the pain. It's not a root cause analysis. And for most people that they go into a surgery, they don't get physio before surgery, to my knowledge. They get physio only after the surgery. And if you have been immobile for such a long time, then the recovery is going to take a lot
longer. Yes.
So I worked with a couple of people in a pre-op manner. One of the other things that I've done, I work with motor vehicle recovery. So
can I just interject, because you're saying so much interesting stuff, and if I don't break in, I will never ask the questions. So I just wanted to ask, what are important things for people who are listening, who maybe have someone in the family or they themselves are going to go into an operation? What are things they can think about? How do they strengthen the muscles around the joints that are getting operated on?
I think that, for some people, physiotherapy is important, so they can lean onto physiotherapy, or if they find a yoga therapist that has some competency around strengthening and around working around the joints to create space and to create some strength to support the joints. So for me personally, when I'm looking at myself, for instance. Why was I having the back pain, right? So if I'm looking at myself and I'm looking at my patterns of movement that were not supporting my health, then I was in a total external rotation in my hip. that was probably coming from a surgery that I had as a baby, but that's a different story for a different day. And because I was externally rotating and pronating, rolling the weight in the inside of my foot, then my knee was not happy, but I wasn't paying attention to it very much because that was not the main pain. The main pain was in my SI joint, right? So I'm just saying that maybe looking at having a physiotherapist or yoga therapist, looking at the gait and working on strengthening, like first is awareness. Yeah. Awareness. How do you put the weight in a more balanced way in your feet? And it's not going to be symmetrical, like Leslie was saying. It's never going to be symmetrical, but it's going to be the awareness of. I know that when I cannot have what I call parental control, I call it parental control
in your body.
Of your body. Okay, so you don't do what you want to do because you've done that for so many years and it never resulted in a very happy outcome. So now you're going to do a little bit of education. So, okay, so this is how you're going to put your foot down. And every time when I feel I'm super tired and I can't do the parental control, it's time to go to bed because nothing good is going to come from that. So I guess it's a lot of what I am suggesting is out of Swadhyaya. So how do I put my weight in my feet? One of the things that one of my students is saying that what she learned mostly and why she's coming back, she learned about clenching, clenching the muscles and the toes, gripping with the toes and clenching the jaw. So those are things that with a lot of awareness, we can catch ourselves more often, not beat us up, catch ourselves more often. And when we catch ourselves more often, it's like the GPS recalculating,
recalibrating.
So let's just find, and I like to say, do not, Judith says something, okay, don't trust me, trust your breath. So how is your breath supporting your decision? That's the education that I'm going to say comes from yoga. Because there is a lot, I don't think that I've ever heard any, maybe the massage therapist talks to you about the breathing and try to breathe when when they are trying to give you
a good one.
Good massage, a good one, yes. But generally speaking, you're not being asked, how's your breath? Yeah, you may be asked at the dentist, are you a mouth breather? Or are you breathing through the nose, right? So that's the type of education that they received in this weeks. And that's the type of education that I would do prior to surgery, educating the breath, calming the nervous system through the breath. My heart was so joyful when I heard one of my students had abdominal surgery to repair a diastasis, and that's an abdominal separation. I forgot that where some other people may be listening to this. It's abdominal separation for sometimes occurs after multiple pregnancies, but not only. And it's not only a female body condition that goes through pregnancy. It's a condition that can arise in anybody.
So what happens? What actually happens in the body?
So what happens? The abdominal wall is separating on the linea alba, on the connective tissue. So it starts like some people have they can fit 4 fingers in the separation of the abdomen. And this girl had three kids. She reduced it as much as possible through physio and through yoga, but it was not progressing further, and she was scheduled for surgery. And when I heard that the anesthetist asked her to go to her happy place, that we are talking often in yoga nidra about the inner resource, like what where do you go to be fully and completely yourself and to enjoy safety, security, and ease. And sometimes for some people that is an imaginary place, but she had the day prior to the surgery, she had all her three kids laying on her and having that moment of love. And she went back to that. And it's like, I wanted to tell you that they do that in the surgery right now. It's like, that warms my heart that they do that. But the thing is, when you have surgery, as I was mentioning, the student, that the client that was in a motor vehicle accident, she had internal bleeding, and they had to figure out what was bleeding in her, and they had to pull out everything from her. They found the spleen bleeding. They removed the spleen, and then she was left with the scar tissue from the breastbone to the navel, which resulted in a lot of rehabilitation. And her she was approved to have yoga part of her rehabilitation. And her physiotherapist told me that she needed to work on core strength. And I said, with all due respect, she doesn't even know that she has a core yet. She needs to work on breathing. She needs to work on
healing and restoring
with the body. So long story short, she is a yoga teacher right now, but she needs a second surgery because her surgery herniated. And what we did for the pre-op for her was actually pelvic floor work to figure out the strength that comes from the pelvic floor when she was sitting on a chair, when she was going to the bathroom, like things that we take for granted that they could be like a bearing out and bearing down, like an inflating of that surgical area. Her surgeon thought that that was brilliant, that she's done that work prior to the surgery, because that is probably one of the causes that her first surgery herniated and did not hold the abdominal wall as well as they were hoping for her. So there are so many benefits that I'm incorporating here. So the pelvic floor work for me, that's why I'm putting the pelvic floor work here, is so important. And I wish every yoga therapist would go and take a pelvic floor course specifically.
Yeah, I agree. I have so many women. I teach in a community center, and they all have pelvic floor issues, especially if they've had children. And they've been to specialists, they've been to physiotherapists, they've tried everything. And then if you do correct kind of yoga, especially if it's Pilates aware as well, it's amazing what you can do. And it's also the awareness, the body awareness is so important, and getting to feel the subtleties and daring to go there, because there's a lot of shame and awkwardness in this area.
I have my pet peeves are taking pills for the side effects and having more side effects and taking so many pills, and the adult diapers that people think that there's nothing that they can do to rehabilitate the incontinence, and that's part of, for me, it's part of healthy functional aging, the functional aging, because I can be healthy, but I can have like the occasional drop when I'm exerting myself. And is that functional? I might be healthy, but is that functional? So for me, bringing awareness there that it's not normal and you can do something about it. Of course, it's not me. I'm gonna quote my pelvic floor physio that every human in this world should see a pelvic floor physiotherapist minimum one time. And if they tell you you're boring, that's good news. That they don't have much to work on. That was for me one of the missing pieces of the puzzle. And when I heard in my pelvic floor course that a good pelvic floor physiotherapist is worth their weight in gold, I was like, really? Until I got to have that experience, and I had to send my pelvic floor physiotherapist a note. It's like, yes, I heard that, and that is an understatement. I feel like I am floating on the sidewalk right now, walking out of my appointment, which is a sensation that I've never had in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah.
So the maintenance work is done through the pelvic floor yoga. I don't want to misrepresent the work that we can do. Everybody should get diagnosed, but somebody that can diagnose and can recommend some movements. This is only for maintenance purposes.
Yeah.
That we can do. So what I was looking at the functional, because I wanted to have this like a well-rounded program. So pelvic floor and center of gravity awareness. Where's your center of gravity and how does it move, right? And how does it vary with a less gravity and more gravity until you come up to standing. Then have a good awareness of your back muscles and neck muscles. We're not really looking often at forward head position and how is that coming actually, how that for me that is the education of the pelvic floor first, and then
the upper part
of the neck and shoulders, and then what bones can be thinning and bones can be changing. So we need to bring some weights and some muscle engagement and abdominal work and quad work there to support the healthy bone. And the drying out, as I was saying, like there is science that we are becoming drier. Like we're going into our vata period of our life and we're becoming drier. So then a little bit of help with the hydration and the differential movement of the tissues is really, really great. And all those people some of them are saying that they are feeling better than in their 30s.
Yes.
And I would like to say one more thing to quote Judith, that when we say, I don't have time, you're manifesting not abundance. You're not manifesting that you can do everything that you want to be doing. Instead, but you're making choices, right? Because we all make choices through the day. Judith likes to say, my darling, Marie Curie and Edison had exactly the 24 hours that you have in the day. Yes. And what they decided to do with those 24 hours is different. But we get into this little hamster wheel that we need to be productive or we need to multitask, and technically the nervous system is exhausted when we're multitasking, because we think we're multitasking, but we're really not.
No, it's very destructive for the brain. The conscious mind can only focus on one thing, and to multitask
I give people an example, what is meditation or yoga nidra doing when, you know how it feels when you move, you change location. You said that you lived on many continents. So when you change location, you want to purge, and you have all the good intentions to organize everything, to purge. And it comes to the wire that in the last little bit, you don't have time to do that. And you start dumping drawers into boxes. and everything is like clumped up into a box. But when you make time during the day to recalibrate and recenter, I keep using the GPS kind of thing, recalculating. So you take that moment to recenter, and then you have the ability to put everything in an organized manner once you do that.
Sometimes it's worth it to take those 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or if you can, 20 minutes to rest, or to do a restorative, or do a pranayama or a breathing exercise, or a yoga nidra. And then you have another 2-3 hours where you're very alert and clear-minded and much more energy than if you just kept going. I'm talking out of my own experience, and I keep doing it. You know, it's like right now I'm at the end of my book and I want it done, but then I just get so tired. Like the last few days, my eyes are not functioning after 1 o'clock. I just can't focus on the screen anymore physically with my eyes, but I don't want to stop because I just want it to be done. But
so, you know, sometimes you need somebody else to tell you,
To remind you.
you know what would be good right now? Maybe a restorative yoga pose or a yoga nidra to just like put a little space between your thoughts and let them simmer and let them cure. So when they cure, they come out a little bit more organized than when they are coming just because we need to do it. And sometimes I'm sitting with myself when I have the need to be efficient and productive. It's like, is this even mine, or did I learn from my upbringing? Of course, we're
From
not blaming
outside.
anybody. Where I'm not doing blame, shame, and guilt. It's just that it is what it is. Where's that groove in my nervous system that we call samskaras? Where is that coming from? Is that even mine? Was that taught to me as a child, and now I'm running with it because I don't take a break to just breathe and figure it out on my own. Like, is this good for me? Is a productive habit, or is this
destructive
for the sake of productivity? You know,
yes,
how some
yes.
people are busy for the sake of busy.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
Everybody can find some time in their day to take a moment. What I actually recommend to my students to, once we disconnect from the class, to remain there, because it's not really, for many people, it feels uncomfortable for somebody to watch you, especially over the internet. How are you resting? Are you resting well? Are you looking good the way you're resting?
Are you really not moving?
I usually tell them, you might feel that you need to go get a blanket or get socks or settle yourself, or you're hungry and you need to feed yourself and then come back to rest. Rest for, if you have 5 minutes, is better than nothing. If you have 10, is better than 5, but ideally you rest for 20. Judith is usually recommending 20 minutes for the restorative yoga poses. And guess what? There's science now to back that up, especially in older adults. Napping has been connected with cognitive abilities, declining the cognitive function. So I usually find articles and send to my students, and they
please.
get a little
if you
bit
have some
of
good articles, send them to me.
Education on this, so they get to, okay, I can lay down. There's more education in one of my teacher's book, Dr. Timothy McCall, Yoga as Medicine, is great education there.
I've got that book.
Yeah,
so but I just meant an online link so people can click the link and then. But my dear Alina, we do have to end. Is there a practice that you would love to share with us?
Yes. How about we do a little bit of yoga nidra, like opening of the senses part of the yoga nidra.
Okay.
Or like a little breather, like a 5-minute opening of the senses, followed by a recording of one of my favorite chants that can be putting a little bit of more space into the in between the thoughts.
Great. I'll just mute myself.
All right. Okay, so you can practice seated or laying down with your eyes open or closed. Starting to notice the sensation of your bones supporting your body, or your bones resting on the ground. Allow body parts that don't need to support you at this moment soften. Maybe your fingers and your toes, maybe your jaw, or the tongue in your mouth. Feel the texture of the clothing on your skin. a touch of air on your exposed skin. Sounds coming from outside of your home or car, wherever you are. Sounds from inside of your home, office, car. No driving though. Like zooming in, zoom into the sounds of your body. Perhaps you can hear the sound of your heart. Maybe there is a gurgle in your belly. And the sound of your breath. And as you sense and hear the sound of your breath, notice the temperatures of your breath. Does it feel cooler when you breathe in? Warmer when you breathe out? Or the other way around? Is there any scent or an aroma coming from the place that you're in? Is there any taste on your tongue? Maybe you had a sip of water, tea, or coffee, or simply feeling the tongue in your mouth. And with the senses acknowledged, bring yourself to a memory of joy. Perhaps the last time when you had a belly laugh, or something that made you smile, or something really silly. That one of my teachers calls vitamin J from joy. You cannot overdose on vitamin J. And once you had that moment, maybe you feel a smile in your heart that may become a smile, a real smile. Maybe the corners of your mouth are lifted. And whether the smile is real or is in your heart, let it travel to every cell of your body. And imagine that every cell of your body has a little smiley face. And as you're allowing the joy to saturate your body, add a thought of gratitude. And my favorite mantra that comes from Painkiller Aware Yoga. Just this is enough. And know that there is enough time, there are enough resources, enough love, enough of everything. And most important, you are enough. and I invite you to listen into a recording of one of my chants.
Thank you.
Good.
I needed that for all selfish purposes. And I love the vitamin J. That's so good. You wrote it in your email. It's like, oh, how wonderful. So simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed. Thank you, Alina, for all your wisdom, your knowledge, your enthusiasm, your dedication to the work.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, really. Yeah, wonderful. We'll say goodbye. Is there anything else you want to say to listeners? You want to leave them where they can find you, your work, your beautiful program?
They can find me on social media. They can search for Alive by Alina on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm on both. I would like to say I'm not super active on social media. My website is also an extension of my business card. I have not yet put my videos on any platform because I need to know the people that I work with, but that might be coming soon. So my website is alivebyalina.com, and that's how they can find me.
Okay, I will put everything in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen and be with us and hear all these amazing stories and knowledge and wisdom.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.